Hello everyone and welcome back to another babbling video with myself, Mike and Sloth today. This one is it kind of, we just have to act now? I mean, we're going to have to try and find a solution to this. Obviously, Edson Alvarez is going to be out for our next two Premier League games, and he's also missing the first leg of our Europa League quarter-final against Bayer Leverkusen. So how on earth do we replace him? Because whenever he hasn't played this season, we have looked so vulnerable, just really disjointed in that midfield. And it's probably why we went and got Calvin Phillips in January to strengthen that department in case players like Alvarez racked up the bookings, which inevitably he would. Obviously got booked for Mexico as well on Sunday night. So that kind of encapsulates.
He's very on brand, isn't he?
Yeah, wherever he goes, he's getting bookings.
He's consistent. That's kind of you got to give him that.
Yeah. So yeah, he's going to miss Newcastle away this weekend. Then he's going to miss obviously Spurs at home a couple of days later, which is a huge loss. He'll be back for Wolves away before we then go to Leverkusen away in the quarterfinal of the Europa League, which he will also miss. So 3 out of our next 4 games, lads, we've got no Edson Alvarez in that midfield. How on earth do we navigate? What's your first gut instinct telling you to do in that midfield? Because there's a few different options we could do in there. What do we do?
Oh, well, my first gut instinct is just to watch from behind the sofa all those games. That's my gut instinct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Mike is very right there. That unfortunately, we've seen the flaws in the midfield, particularly when Alvarez isn't playing, and I think we just have to throw all the faith that we can at Phillips and Souček, because we know what Souček can do. We know, especially in these Europa League games, he has got the ability to win a match and he has got the ability to do a great job for us. So we need to trust that. But I think we also need to say to Phillips, look, you're basically playing for your career. Like whether it's at England, whether it's at the top level, because look, he's been diabolical. It's been a disaster of a transfer so far. And if he doesn't turn it around, nobody's going to give Manchester City the sort of money they want, and nobody's going to give him the sort of wages that he's going to demand. So This is the time that he needs to prove himself and show exactly why he can get that. Now, would I select him? I would probably let him start the match, and even, it might sound harsh, but even just say after 30 minutes, if he's not settled in there and he looks as rusty as he has been, I'd take him off and I'd change the midfield and try and make sure that it's basically then Souček, James Ward-Prowse and Paqueta in a midfield 3. Because
who would be your starting midfield 3 with Phillips then? Would you start Souček or Ward-Prowse?
Souček. I think he's more defensive, and if there's one thing that we definitely can do over Leverkusen and a lot of sides, it's physically bully them.
Yeah.
So, Souček is key for that. And if we can get him involved, start winning those aerial balls, put teams under pressure and win the knockdowns with players like Kudus and Bowen chasing onto the scraps, then, we can hurt anyone. But it's just about doing that and making sure that we are good in possession.
Yeah. Mike, what would you do? Because obviously Phillips has not had the best of times at West Ham so far, to say the least. But then we've also, we've seen us play with a Souček Ward-Prowse double pivot many times this season. I mean, we only have to look back to, I think, Fulham away, where we got spanked 5-0. That was a disaster. How can we trust that midfield too, if we don't play Phillips, to be good enough with, even if it is Paqueta sitting in front with that midfield 3? Would you rather go for that or bring in Phillips like Sloth is suggesting?
I don't know. At the moment, I'm trying to get over the flashbacks of that 5-0, to be honest. Thanks for that. I think if you play Ward-Prowse, to the point, Ward-Prowse has been very good for us. However, I think when he plays in a deeper position defensively, his IQ isn't as good. I think going in the opposite direction is fantastic. He's a workaholic and works his absolute arse off when it comes to defensive situations. However, his lack of pace and maybe his positional IQ defensively allows him to be exploited. And without someone, say, like Alvarez, who's able to play like an absolute brilliant crab and just going side to side and working those horizontals. I think it's really difficult, and I would probably prefer, if we're going to play Ward-Prowse, is you ask Paqueta to go into that double pivot.
Yeah,
because he can play there. He does it for Brazil. I know people could always say he's a number 10, but he's an 8. He's an 8-10 hybrid, really. I would prefer to play him deeper and say Ward-Prowse you sit off the centre forwards, because I think that kind of almost null and voids the problems that we've had with Ward-Prowse, and it also puts Ward-Prowse where he's been most effective for West Ham. And Paqueta also has that, generally has that desire to drop deep to try and collect the ball anyway. So I think putting him in a position where he's closer to receive the ball gives us much better kind of connection between our defence and midfield, and potentially our midfield to our attack, than it would be if we play Paqueta further forward, because as we've seen with Souček, he's not always great receiving it in tight spaces. He's been far better this year, in all honesty, and to be fair to him, he has been far better this year doing it. And Ward-Prowse, we know, can be a bit sideways and backwards. So I think putting someone like Paqueta in that position encourages us to be a bit more adventurous anyway, because by his nature, he doesn't want to just go sideways and backwards. He wants to try and push play forward. So I think having them two there is a way to go, if we're going to go Ward-Prowse.
Yeah.
I'm kind of whistle off in that you arguably say to Ward-Prowse, to Phillips, is for the next 3 games, unless you drop an absolute clanger in the first one, you are going to play. So you have 3 games in which to earn your spot, because arguably, we know when Alvarez comes back, Alvarez comes straight back in.
Yeah.
Paqueta should stay in that position as well until Antonio has a bad game, quite frankly. And so then it just means it's then a straight up fight between Ward-Prowse, Souček and Phillips. And I think that's kind of arguably how it will be.
I think we've also said that if we're going to play Phillips, he kind of has to start. He's not someone you bring on in a match, because you just, you need someone to get up to speed in those sites. I mean, we're going to St. James's Park up next, for example. You can't be bringing him on after 60 minutes if you're chasing a game or something, because we've seen it. We've seen it when he comes on. He just can't adapt quick enough. And, he's trying to make rash things and rush into things. I think if you start him in that natural 6 alongside Souček with a little bit more defensive security in a game where we're probably not expected to have much of the ball anyway, going to St. James's Park, I just think he'll play a lot better. I think there'll be less pressure on him in that sort of environment, especially if you've got Paqueta sitting in front, just acting as, like you said, that kind of deep 8, and you've got the front 3 of Antonio, Bowen and Kudus to hit them on the attack. So I think with Phillips, he has to get up to speed at some point. We can't continue to pay this amount of money for him and, not really see any benefit from or impact from him. So if there's ever a time for him to step up and show it, like you were saying, Sloth, if he's got aspirations of, playing at the top level again in the Premier League and maybe even getting into the Euro squad again, he has to show it. And I think this is probably going to show what type of character he is, because, you look at a youngster like Kobe Mainoo getting into the England squad over him. He must be absolutely fuming. But does he use that as a positive and try and perform better for West Ham and use it as kind of inspiration? Or does he go the other way? Because it can really go one of 2 ways for those types of situations. So, yeah, I think as well, we've got a lot of games coming up now after the international break. We obviously play Newcastle on Saturday. We've got Spurs 3 days later. We've then got Wolves 4 days after that. And then it's into Europa League, 3-day switches with the Premier League. So plenty of football to be played for Calvin Phillips. But can we manage these next, few games without Edson Alvarez? I guess that's the key question.
I think it's going to be difficult to do it because, as we see with Alvarez, not only is he brilliant defensively, he's the metronome in our midfield. He's what kind of dictates our tempo and gets us playing. And we've seen as the season's developed, he's actually taken a bit more responsibility in bringing the ball out from that deeper position and driving into the opposition. So I think that's something that we've also seen over the course of the year, where he's taken a bit more responsibility to be, I guess, more of the catalyst to kind of get us going in when we've got those lulls in games. You could say arguably for Phillips now the pressure is off, right? Because coming to us, it was where he's now just looking to get, maintain his England place because he was getting picked regardless of how he played and how little he played. And you could argue now that, well, you've lost your place. All you can do now is re-earn it. So in actual fact, the pressure is off you, because all intents and purposes, you've lost it because you're not playing well enough. So if you can get yourself back to playing decent football, the manager clearly really likes you because he's played you for about the last 2 years without any football. So if you can start playing to a decent standard or get yourself up to a good level, then you're probably almost a shoo-in to get a place.
Yeah, so, I also think David Moyes might be a good character for Calvin Phillips as well to be around now, because he's definitely a player he's admired for years now. You know, he was trying to sign him when he was at Leeds. He's obviously got big aspirations of Calvin Phillips as a footballer. So it's just that man management side as well might be crucial to Calvin Phillips coming back in and performing well for West Ham. So tough ask, man. It's a tough ask losing Alvarez. It was really frustrating to see him get booked, you know, on both occasions, really. Both stupid bookings and both ones that were kind of needless. But yeah, oh well, we got to deal with it. We got to roll on. Not much tougher than Newcastle away as well. So it's going to be an interesting next couple of weeks on the channel. And I hope we're, you know, sat here in a couple of weeks and Calvin Phillips has played a couple of blinders. We haven't missed Alvarez and we continue to push up in the league. But it's a big ask, and we've got some very tough games coming up as well. So, yeah, let us know in the comments how you'd like to see that midfield free lineup against Newcastle on Saturday and how we adapt without Alvarez in that midfield, because it is a massive loss to the side and how we play. Make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and lads, until next time,
come on, you guys.